What's up, Gacha gamers? Today's video is all about equipment, where to find the best weapons and armor, how to evolve them efficiently, and more. So let's first take a quick look at each piece of equipment. Weapons will primarily boost your attack power, armor will be crucial at reducing different types of damage and can be equipped by anybody, gear will provide specific advantage against a type of damage, for example boots giving you increased defense against slash attacks and so on, and finally, accessories will give you resistance against status effects, or it might also give stat bonuses. Sometimes even both. And even though all of the equipment will provide stat boosts or sometimes deduction, the most important thing you need to understand is that your biggest goal with equipment needs to be the defense. Even though you can improve the offensive performance of your character style with weapons and such, it is more important for them to survive massive enemy attacks which come from utilizing and preparing against every battle with the right set of offensive equipment. So, what type of equipment should you farm? Well, for starters, weapons are a bit deceiving in this game. While it's true that once you first equip your first B rank weapon, you can feel the difference. But it's a good rule of thumb to only farm for S rank weapons from very hard stages. Do not waste your time with farming for A rank weapons, and even worse, don't waste your resources upgrading them. And also, don't farm for S rank weapons in hard stages. Their drop rate is too low and it's better to focus acquiring them from very hard stages. What's also special about very hard stages is that the S rank weapons dropped have a slight chance of having a random stat boosted. You will see a blinking stat on the acquired weapons icon. As an example, this greatsword here has +3 strength, more than it usually drops. There's also an even smaller chance that the weapon might get an additional stat increase denoted by the plus sign next to the stat it gets. So there are 3 types of drops you can expect: without stat boosts, with a random +3 stat boost, and if the RNG god favors you, with a random +4 stat boost. Later, the game will receive updates where you can farm for elemental weapons. So instead of having random stat bonuses, you will farm for weapons with random element boosts. These will be especially important for character styles like Charles, who needs, for example, a flame elemental spear to use him at his fullest potential. Next up, armor. So there are 4 types of armor: robes, body, light, and heavy armor. Each kind of armor is good against different types of attacks. For example, robes are good against elemental attacks, whereas heavy armor works well against all physical attacks. But here's what's interesting about this game. You need to have at least one of each armor sets for all your party members. For example, a set of scarlet robes, which have heat resistance, work wonders against Pyrohydra's attacks in Forest of Mystery. You will notice just how insane the enemies can get if you don't bring the right type of defense into the stage. Quite often, your progress will get paused not because of your damage output, but because your party members are just dying too soon. So, if you're stuck at a stage and you feel like you have enough HP, make sure to check out recommended defense types before starting each stage. Currently, you can only farm for A rank armor in hard story stages, and the few pieces of S and SS armor can only be redeemed with the eggshells from the Forest of Mystery. This brings us to the next point: gear. There are 4 types of gear: shirts, helmets, gloves, and boots. Each type of gear is good at one type of defense. Boots provide defense against piercing, helmets against blunt, and gloves against slashing attacks. Shirts so far seem to give a tiny boost against physical attacks and a really good defense against light and dark attacks combined. All the gear should be farmed from hard stages. The final kind of equipment are accessories. So, accessories by themselves aren't that amazing, and they're the only piece of equipment that cannot be evolved. They provide little stat boosts and resistances to ailments like confusion. So far, it's only recommended to farm only some accessories, which brings us to the next point: where do you actually farm the equipment? So where do you get the equipment? For the most part, B and A equipment can be acquired through story mode. You can also acquire S rank weapons too. But S and SS rank armor, gear, and accessories can only be acquired through events, at least as of making this video. But starting with the weapons, here's where you can obtain S rank weapons, with a chance of getting a random stat boost when farming on the very hard stages. So follow these locations only when you're doing very hard stages. In chapter 3-1, you can get bows, fire, and wind staves. In chapter 3-2, you will find the rest of the elemental staves, which are light and dark, earth and water. In chapter 4-1, you will be able to get swords and fist weapons. Chapter 4-2 will be great swords and spears. Axes can be found in chapter 5-1, and finally, you will find small swords and clubs in chapter 5-2. For armor, Chapter 4-1 and 4-2 are best places to farm for heat resistance armor like Scarlet Robes or Field Plate, which gives both heat and cold resistance. For most prominent gear, Chapter 2-2-1 on hard mode have really good boots that provide +2 agility, and in Chapter 5-1-3 drops Boot OG, which gives defense against dark and light attacks along with some nice stats like +2 endurance. Finally, for accessories, the best ones for now would be Warrior Ring at Chapter 3-1-5, Hermit's Ring at 3-2-3, and Feather Amulet at 3-1-3, all of which are found in the hard mode. And there's loads more of them, but some of the Japan community veterans advise to not bother too much right now and wait for better accessories that will come out pretty soon. So with so much equipment to farm, you're probably asking yourself, what's the best equipment loadout I should be using on each of my characters? And the best equipment loadout is usually the one that focuses on preventing 1 to 2 damage types. For example, in a stage with lots of enemies with slashing attacks, equip everyone with heavy armor and gloves. And honestly, it's not easy to outfit yourself against 2 damage types, unless it's dark and light, since shirts provide those defenses. Instead, just focus either on the toughest enemies or the boss itself and bring appropriate defense into the fight. You could also consider checking out the boss signature skills before starting a stage or during a fight. Long press on the boss, navigate to its skill tab, and then check out every single skill the boss has. But you should be able to notice that without inspecting the boss too much, usually by getting your characters one-shot by a single skill. You can also check out the link below the video of our article that extensively covers every single best armor and gear combination. So after you're done farming for equipment, the next question you should be asking yourself is, how should I improve it? You can level up equipment by sacrificing the same category of equipment, meaning weapon with weapons and etc. But the preferred method would be to use equipment experience orbs. Since Aurum is tough to acquire, selling off unused equipment for profit is a better choice. When you're grinding for anything in the game, you can almost always expect to receive these orbs as a reward. In order to evolve equipment, you will need Tri glowstones and the matching equipment type glowstones, which change each day throughout the week, but all of them do become available to grind during Sundays. You will also need to have a hefty amount of Aurum, so that's why it's a better idea to just sell off your unused equipment. Most importantly, never purchase glowstones from the shops since they do require Aurum and cost an insane amount. Instead, only farm the highest glowstone dungeons, when you need SS drops, and downgrade a few stages to grind S rarity glowstones. And finally, the same applies to A rarity glowstones. Second or third stages should be the most optimal for acquiring loads of them. You could also try the glowstone fusion feature, but only when you have an abundant amount of them, since their exchange rate is also quite poor. All in all, weapons are great, but not as important as having appropriate defense against enemy attacks. Don't grind for S-rank weapons in hard stages because you can get them faster and better from the very hard stages. And the most important thing you should strive for is obtaining armor and gear sets against each damage type, like slashing, fire, and so on. This will have the biggest impact on how much you'll be able to progress. As mentioned in our previous videos, always try to grow your HP to at least 350 to 400 before you attempt to collect any weapons or armor. Aside from that, just sit back and be prepared to grind some more. If you're interested in having a better gaming experience and you want your lag reduced, then consider checking out Exit Lag. This is an especially useful piece of software for players who are living in Southeastern Asia, and the best part about it is that you can sign up for a free trial version for 3 days without adding any payment details. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, make sure to check out the link below the video. If you found this video useful, make sure to subscribe to us, click a button, and leave a comment to tell us how much you've already advanced in the game. And if you need a tier list or more guides, check out the links below the video or visit us at gachagamer.com. Thank you for watching us. This was Toby with Gacha Gamer. See you in the next video.